creeps! Andy here, and today I have another book haul for you. I was trying really hard not to buy books in October because I already have the books that I want to read this month and I have a lot to do, so I was like, you know what, it's not worth it, I don't need more books. But my husband and I ended up going to the used bookstore. I bought a few things here and there from Barnes & Noble and Amazon and stuff. And we ended up going to the used bookstore and they had such a good selection, and I have no self-control, and that equation equals me having more books than my little eyes could ever read. But that's okay. So here we are today with another book haul, and let's just jump into it. Don't worry, I didn't buy any Darcy Coates books. Okay, I bought one. This is The Haunting of Leigh Harker, and I already read it because this is what happens when I buy her books. I have an entire shelf of books that I want to read, and then I'll go buy a Darcy Coates book and it just goes front of the line. So this one just says, sometimes the dead reach back. Leigh Harker's quiet suburban home was her sanctuary for more than a decade until things abruptly changed. Curtains open by themselves, radios turn off and on, and a dark figure looms in the shadows of her bedroom door at night, watching her, waiting for her to finally let her guard down enough to fall asleep. Pushed to her limits and unwilling to abandon her home, Leigh struggles to find answers, but each step forces her toward something more terrifying than she ever imagined. A poisonous shadow seeps from the locked door beneath the stairs. The handle rattles through the night and the fingernails scratch at the wood. Her home harbors more dangerous secrets, and now that Leigh is trapped within its walls, she fears she may never escape. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like a typical horror story. I don't know what's going on out there. But I know what you're thinking. It sounds like a typical horror haunted house story, but it's much different than I expected, as most of her books are, and it really was a fun read. This might have broken my top 3. So. Oh, I forgot I got these. Okay, next up I got The Whisper Man by Alex North. I talked about this, The Shadows by Alex North, in my 31 books that I recommended to read for October. And so this is by the same author, and this has been out for a while and I haven't read it, and I really wanted to read more work from him because I really did enjoy The Shadows. So this one just says, after the sudden death of his wife, Tom Kennedy believes in a fresh start will help him and his young son Jake heal. A new beginning, a new house, a new town, Featherbank. But the town has a dark past. 20 years ago, a serial killer abducted and murdered 5 residents. Until Mark Carter was finally caught, he was nicknamed the Whisper Man, for he could lure his victims out by whispering at their windows at night. Sounds creepy. Just as Tom and Jake settle into their new home, a young boy vanishes. His disappearance bears an unnerving resemblance to Frank Carter's crimes, reigniting old rumors that he preyed with an accomplice. Now Detective Amanda Beck. Was that the same detective in this one? Oh, it is the same detective, so it must be the same town? Are these linked? I probably should have checked more into this. But anyways, it says Amanda Beck and Pete Willis must find the boy before it is too late, and then Jake begins acting strangely. He hears a whispering at his window. ... So that is this one. It sounds so fun. I'm very excited to read it. Let me know if you guys have read that. And then this one I wasn't going to purchase. This is Stephen King's Fairy Tale, and I didn't know if I wanted to read this one. I haven't read the last 2 or 3 books that Stephen King has released, but the guy at the counter was like, this book is so good, I loved it, you're gonna love it. So I was like, okay, we'll see. And it just says, Charlie Reed looks like a regular high school kid, great at baseball and football, a decent student, but he carries a heavy load. His mom was killed in a hit-and-run accident when he was 7, and grief drove his dad to drink. Charlie learns how to take care of himself and his dad. When Charlie is 17, he meets a dog named Radar and her aging master, Howard Bowditch, a recluse in a big house at the top of a hill with a locked shed in a backyard. Sometimes strange sounds emerge from it. Charlie starts doing odd jobs for Mrs. Bowditch and loses his heart to Radar. Then, when Bowditch dies, he leaves Charlie a cassette tape telling a story no one would believe. What Bowditch knows and has kept a secret all his life is that inside the shed is a portal to another world. The reason why I didn't think that I would enjoy this is it sounds more mystical, like a fantasy type book, and I'm not really into fantasy type stories. I was like, I'll give it a try, and let me know if you guys have read it. It got pretty decent reviews, and I think that's why I ended up picking it up in the first place. So let me know about this guy. Okay, so now these are all books from my used bookstore, and the first one I got was Kill Creek, and this is by Scott Thomas, and I've actually read this before. It was $3.50, and I just borrowed it from a friend and read it, so I was like, oh, I'll just, you know, buy it on my own and then I can reread it and highlight it. It's kind of like a haunted house story. It's kind of, no, it is a haunted house story. It says, at the end of a dark prairie road nearly forgotten in the Kansas countryside is Finch House. For years it remained empty, overgrown, abandoned. Soon the doors will be open for the first time in decades, but something is waiting, lurking in the shadows, anxious to meet its new guests. When best-selling horror author Sam McGarver is invited to spend Halloween night in one of the world's most infamous haunted houses, he reluctantly agrees. At least he won't be alone. Joining him are 3 other masters of the macabre, writers who have helped shape modern horror. But what begins as a simple publicity stunt will become a fight for survival. The entity they have awakened will follow them and torment them, threaten to make them a part of the bloody legacy of Kill Creek. The next one I got, I'm so excited for. This is Anne Rice's The Witching Hour, and this is actually the first of the series, which you guys know I am notorious for buying like the 3rd or 5th book in a series and not realizing. But this one had pretty good reviews. I think it had 4 stars or something on Goodreads. I've been using Goodreads as a guide for books to pick up. It says, on the veranda of a great New Orleans house, now faded, a mute and fragile woman sits rocking and the witching hour begins. A family given to poetry and incest, to murder and philosophy, a family that over the ages is itself haunted by a powerful, dangerous, and seductive being, a hypnotic novel of witchcraft and the occult through 4 centuries. The Witching Hour could only have been written by the best-selling author of Interview with the Vampire. It's about witches. That's what I know. And I have not read a book about witches, you know, in a hot minute, so I'm very excited to read this. I hope I can at least start it at the end of October. Most of these are horror, but I did snag a few sci-fis. I got this Philip K. Dick, We Can Build You, and really I was looking for, one of you guys actually told me that Philip K. Dick wrote the short story or novella that the movie Total Recall is based off of, so that's what I was actually looking for. But if there's a Philip K. Dick book that I haven't purchased, I just pick it up. This one just says, Louis Rosin and his partners used to sell spinets. Now they're selling people, or to be more precise, ingeniously designed historically authentic simulacra of such personages as Edward M. Stanton and Abraham Lincoln. The problem is that the only prospective buyer is a rapacious billionaire whose plans for the simulacra could land Lewis in jail. And then there's the added complication that someone or something like Abraham Lincoln may not want to be sold. Is an electronic Lincoln any less alive than his creators? So his work always sounds super intriguing. Oh, this guy, The Witching Hour, was $2, and then this guy is $3.50. The next one I found was this. It's Hidden Bodies, and it's by Caroline Kepnes, and I saw this. It was on the shelf. I'm like, Caroline Kepnes, I know that name. How do I know that name? I think it's related to you. Let's read the back. I haven't read You yet, but I did buy the book, and I bought that one at Barnes & Noble, and this one was $3.50. And so this one says, Joe Goldberg is no stranger to hiding bodies. In the past 10 years, this 30-something has buried 4 of them. Collateral damage in his quest for love. So yeah, I think it is the second one to that. Now he's heading west to Los Angeles, the city of second chances, determined to put his past behind him. In Hollywood, Joe blends in effortlessly with his fellow young upstarts. He eats guac, works in a bookstore, and flirts with a journalist neighbor. And while others seem fixated on his own reflections, Joe can't stop looking over his shoulder. The problem with Hidden Bodies is that they don't always stay that way. They reemerge like dark thoughts, multiplying and threatening to destroy what Joe wants most, true love. And when he finds it in the darkest room in a Soho house, he's more desperate than ever to keep his secrets buried. He doesn't want to hurt his new girlfriend. He wants to be with her forever. But even if she finds out what he's done, he may not have a choice. So I believe this is the second one. Let me just look at the back of You and see. So it is the second one. And I will have to read these and watch the show eventually and talk about maybe like a show versus book of them. But yeah, I don't know. It just sounded interesting. I'm very excited for these. So I got Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I remember my brother reading this forever ago, but I never read it, and so I thought it would be fun. This is by Jane Austen and also Seth Graham Smith. And I know that this was pretty big a few years back. This was published in 2009. And it just says, so begins Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, an expanded edition of the beloved Jane Austen novel featuring all new scenes of bone-crunching zombie mayhem. As our story opens, a mysterious plague has fallen upon the quiet England village of Meryton, and the dead are returning to life. Feisty heroine Elizabeth Bennet is determined to wipe out the zombie menace, but she's soon distracted by the arrival of the haughty and arrogant Mr. Darcy. What ensues is a delightful comedy of manners with plenty of civilized sparring between the two young lovers and even more violent sparring on the blood-soaked battlefield. Can Elizabeth vanquish the spawn of Satan and overcome the social prejudices of the class-conscious landed gentry, complete with romance, heartbreak, sword fights, cannibalism, and thousands of rotting corpses? Pride and Prejudice and Zombies transforms a masterpiece of world literature into something you'd actually want to read. That's actually kind of fucked up. Anyways, this one was $3 and I was like, I might as well pick it up. I do think my brother really enjoyed this book when he read it. Then I found this, and this is Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. Do they have like an entire range of these books? This is by Jane Austen and Ben H. Winters, so it's a different writer, but I was just like, I gotta read this. And so this one just says, Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters expands the original text of the beloved Jane Austen novel with all new scenes of giant lobsters, rampaging octopi, two-headed sea serpents, and other biological monstrosities. As our story opens, the Dashwood sisters are evicted from their childhood home and sent to live on a mysterious island full of savage creatures and dark secrets, where they fall prey to the tentacles that are forever snapping at their heels. Oh, this is funny. This one was $3 too. I don't know, this one caught my attention and I kind of want to read this one more. Yeah, I would say all in all, pretty successful book haul. Let me know what you think is the most urgent that I must read immediately. Let me know if you found any books that you're going to pick up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys!